I could try it.
All right. Take two. Welcome to RNG Gaming, where we talk. Welcome to RNG, where we talk about random nonsense in gaming. I'm Isaac.
I'm Kirk.
And today's topic, Spiderman. Beware, you will get spoiled.
You will. Spider-Man Dose, to be exact.
The video game.
Yes, not the movie or the other movie or the other movie. Just the game.
So if you haven't played the game yet, and you want to, and you don't want to know what happens, be sure to click off, save, come back at a different time, and we'll see you then. Kirk, what were your initial thoughts of the game after completing it?
After completing it or right away?
Yes.
Well, right away, the Sandman scene blew me away. I thought it was really cool. I did think it was strange that Miles gained momentum when he flew through a building because he was slowing down, but then he shot out at faster speed.
Wow.
But it made for a cool return. I thought it was very good. I thought pacing was better in this game than the first game. The story-wise. For full disclosure, I'm not done with all the side content, but Isaac he knows about what most of it is.
Yes.
So I don't know about all the side content. But I think overall it's the best one out of the three for me. Personally. Because of reasons. But these are just impressions.
Right.
So what are yours?
You know, I thought it was a fantastic game coming out of the gate. I thought that one of the things that I liked a lot more in this game compared to the first game was the MJ missions.
Yes.
I actually kind of enjoyed them.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's... I kind of enjoyed them, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
But the way they handled... I think Venom has the best suit and any
yes.
video media that I've seen of Venom.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about it
it's just menacing.
Yes. But yeah, I thought it was great, and I definitely enjoyed playing it more than I enjoyed playing Miles Morales. I think the game as a whole I enjoyed more than the first game, but I think the story of the first game hit a little harder than this one for me. But I'm not saying, but it was still a good story. I mean, it was still fantastic, but I think the first game might have hit a little harder.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I definitely was more emotionally struck when spoilers for the first game. when
We're spoiling everything.
When Aunt May died was definitely more hard hitting for me, and
right.
and his connection with Otto throughout the game and that ending with that definitely hit me harder. I think, on an emotional level, but I think the overall story with how it was way more, it was serious but in different ways. I think because Craven just straight up kills villains,
yeah.
And he is very menacing and obviously a threat compared to more of just because it's he's hunting down these people that Peter doesn't want dead. He just wants them in jail because they're doing bad things. He thinks that everyone can be saved. And Craven's just they are just prey to him. Right.
And yeah, I would definitely say I think the first game had that more emotional pull, but I do agree that, I do think I had more fun playing through this story. More there was more oomph behind it, I guess.
In the first one or in this one?
In this one.
Yeah.
There's more oomph behind it, but I think I had a larger emotional tie to the relationships that happened in the first game.
Yeah.
But... And I loved Craven's character.
Yes.
I thought he was
so great.
I think there wasn't... I think they fleshed him out well.
Yeah.
But... so those are my general impressions, of. Definitely, it's right up there with the first one.
Uh-huh.
They're both pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite part of the game?
I think
if you had to pick a scene, like a specific like
scene-
sequence of from the game, what do you think your favorite
So-
sequence was?
that's really tough for me because I think there's two that come to mind, but the one that I actually got up and I started running around my house and I called you, and it was right before it happened for you.
Oh yeah.
Is when the first time we see Venom. I've been waiting for it the whole game, and the cutscene, Insomniac knew what they were doing, and they made it look like it was about to be like a boss fight with Peter. Like the camera like kind of followed into where it normally does, and then then Norman came in and like kind of stopped it. Venom just threw Spider-Man to the wall, and then it was like I was like, oh my gosh, like the cutscene's lingering. It's not cutting after he roars, like all these people are in here, and then it's just cuts and it says press square to attack, and I literally like screamed. I was like, that was my one crackpot like theory I wanted for the game, was to play as Venom. I didn't think it would be in the free roam sense. I knew it would probably just be a mission, but I was like, that's all I wanted, and I got it. So like I can't complain.
Right. I don't want to sound like a total sheep beta male, but I would agree with that statement that it was my favorite. But if I had to pick another one, the boss fight between Miles and Peter was crazy. Yeah. That one was crazy. I did enjoy that a lot. And yeah, I mean, those two scenes are ones that come right to my mind. And obviously, I mean, the ending boss fight with Venom was insane too, but I feel like that's the given one.
Yeah.
So
I think if my other tied one was probably when Peter was like dying and it was a fake out, obviously. I was still like, part of me was still like, am I going to play as Harry for a little bit until like something happens? Like he'd basically just be like Spider-Man, but like just Harry. But then like the symbiote transferred. We all knew that was happen eventually. But that scene too, I was like kind of actually like, is it gonna be like Harry and Miles on the streets for like two main missions or something? Like, but I was like, that'd be weird how that would work. But yeah, no, that one almost got me too. But yeah,
there was just something about like when Kraven was on screen, it was like, dude's badass.
I know, he like commanded the presence of the room, and like the graphicness that they did with when Venom killed him was crazy.
It was insane.
Like I was not expecting that at all. I expected he'd just like, and the fact the Venom finishers
were crazy.
Literally grabbed a dude and snapped him over your head. Yeah, like, I was like not expecting that at all.
Or like the throw thing where you like grab the guy and then you start with them.
Right. Yeah. No, I was blown away by that sequence. I mean, the rest of the game is still phenomenal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that sequence in particular really blew me away. There's one thing I wanted to ask you too. I saw some like memes today about it actually.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Miles original suit?
Oh,
there's so many memes of people like I was watching a one Jacksepticeye playing this game, and I was skipping through because I like to see how certain people react to things. It wasn't really just watching like him play it, but I was watching the key moments, and it got to the point where like New York's taking over, and it's so funny because Yuri Lowenthal's like delivery, he's like, looks good. It's like because he's like emotional because Miles is becoming his own Spider-Man, but it sounds like he's trying to hold back a laugh. And I think it's hilarious. I will full stop say that I thought it looks badass right away. I was like, this looks dope. And then I realized people were clowning the suit on everything, on Twitter, on YouTube, and I was like, I'm in the minority. I thought it was pretty cool.
That's fair. You know, I didn't hate it. I'm not going to sit here and say I was blown away by it. Like, I definitely liked... It was really cool. I really liked the anti-Venom suit.
Yes, yeah, that's a whole different story, but...
freaking cool.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting that at all to happen.
Yeah, right. I wasn't expecting Miles and Mr. Negative to work together. But it's kind of cool that they did.
Yeah.
I liked that arc. Yeah. But as far as Miles' original suit goes, you know, it's solid. I did like it. But I don't think I liked it as much. What was your
first reaction when he was like... Because, like, it's kind of funny because, like, the cutscene starts... and like Miles is coming, and like you're in like, okay, whatever last suit I just had him in is what you're expecting.
Yeah.
So if you get him in like you cross the Spider-Verse suit or maybe a different one, and then he just pulls up and you're like, who is that? You know, because it's like a new suit. What were you like? Were you like, okay, I'll rock it for this mission, or were you like, I'm switching this like as soon as I have control?
I rocked it. I rocked those two because I felt like they were the suits that were meant for the final mission. I rocked it because I felt like they were the suits that were meant for the final mission. So, So, I wanted it to be the complete experience for that last little bit. You know what I mean? And like literally, I think back to like when Miles came in that suit, and I was playing, and I was like, hey, nice. I wasn't jumping out of my seat, but I was like, it's pretty...
Yeah, comparatively to the Venom suit, obviously, and
right.
the anti-Venom suit, they're way, like, that was like,
right.
wow, nice.
Well, and I have this already, like, ingrained respect for the fact that he just did it by himself. You know, it's his suit. It is Miles.
Yeah.
But, you know, kind of piggybacking off that, you know, we talked about our top, you know, our top scenes. What was a low for the game for you?
I think it's honestly tough. I haven't thought. I think that for a low, it's unfair to put some of the side content under it, but it's kind of one of the problems I had with the main game too, is that like some of the side content's pretty repetitive, but I don't know, I was oh god, I'll start that over. I'm burping so bad. Let me rephrase my thought. I think low is that we didn't get to see it. It was like 3/4 into the game when Venom came in.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we didn't just need him in the game, but I think a lot of the marketing led it to believe like he was going to be a longer term threat.
Right.
But it also is cool that since it was so short, and the short amount of time he was in the game, he was already about to take over the world in like a day.
Right.
So like I get it, but
and he grew wings.
Which was amazing. Did you just hear me go?
I did.
Cat.
Catching hit.
What was your low?
Well, I think one of the lows that I had was, and it wasn't even terrible, but I thought the performance was a little suspect at times. I had, you know, a couple of crashes that came in. I had a couple of random glitches that happened, and I had a couple of restarting from checkpoints because certain things wouldn't spawn in that I needed to spawn in to advance it. Like I remember the first crash was when you're taking J. Jonah Jameson from the car to the hospital, and I flew, and I was gonna hit the hospital. I was just about to hit the side of the hospital and the glass. Screen black. I was like, oh, all right. But you know, so I think, and it wasn't terrible. Like it wasn't game breaking. It was just enough for me to like bring up here. You know what I mean?
There was one moment where I think I was putting it was a symbiote nest, and I was putting one of the canisters on it to start the side quest mission, and like Peter literally just walked in a circle, and I couldn't press start, I couldn't pause the game, I couldn't move or I like mashed my controller. He just walked for maybe like 35 seconds.
Like a Flow Rider song.
And then finally he just like placed the thing down, and I was like, okay, thank God.
It was about
done. But that was like, and then I had a couple crashes, but thankfully they were just when I was like swinging, so it didn't really like impact my story. But
you know, and one thing I brought up to you before we even hit record on this thing is, I thought it was a semi-safe sequel in the sense that instead of instead of the Sable bases from the first game, we have Hunter Blinds in this game. Instead of backpacks from the first game, we have spider bots in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, instead of the other base objective in the first game. We have the symbiote nests in this game. And, like, I felt there weren't many things that I was surprised by. But to be fair, everything that I was expecting happened, and everything I wanted to happen happened, and everything that they did, they hit out of the park. But I did feel like my real only surprise of, like, this, I wasn't expecting this, was when the Shriek boss fight happened.
Yeah, that was
I wasn't expecting that.
Super cool.
But
I think one thing they did better in this game with some of the blinds and stuff is the blinds at least give you, once you get the 3 in the area, they give you the base, and then they, like, have each little different side objectives in them to take out before, like, completing the base. Like, some of them have more, like, call reinforcements or stuff like that.
Right.
Which I think is cool. I do think, too, that, like, say if you were to put, like, Marco's memories and then the symbiote nest kind of in the same group, because they're just, like,
I did like
kind of waves.
Yeah.
I think what's cool is, like, once you get the anti-venom suit, the symbiote nests become trivial with Peter because the anti-venom abilities make them take way more damage. And then if you use the electricity abilities with Miles at Marco's memories, it, like, fries all the sand people.
Makes them glass.
Exactly.
Because science.
And I think it was cool that it encouraged using different abilities at different places. Whereas, like, the last one, obviously, they couldn't really do that because there was just one in each. But that was one thing. I do agree that some of it was still a little safe, but I think they made up for it with combat, with, like, there being crush attacks that you can't parry, you just have to dodge. And then also adding parrying is pretty cool. Just as another, like, I died so many times to Venom. I was playing the hardest difficulty other than Ultimates of Spectacular, and it's still, like, I'd be dodging, and I'd expect a crush attack, and then he'd do a parry attack, and I'd panic because I've already dodged once. So I would try and jump over it, but I'd get swiped by it. And then I would try and parry a crush on accident. And then
Well, I thought it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes between whether they're doing a crush one that you have to parry, or it's your spider senses going red and you're just going to, like, block it. So it's like, I definitely had a few times where I was like, oh, I should have parried that. And I tried to dodge it because I'm not smart.
And then they switch it to, like, Venom has, like, hit, and then it's, like, either a crush or a parry. And you just have to read them. Like, you have to, like, be patient. And usually in that game, you're just circle.
Right, yep. Can I also, just speaking of boss fights, just the Lizard boss fight where Peter absolutely disgraced Lizard and his family. Can we just acknowledge?
What do you mean?
When he was like, your family never loved you, or your wife left you because you're this monster or whatever. He said.
Yeah,
he was just absolutely just going in on the Lizard. Like, if the punches weren't hitting, his words were hitting harder. You know?
Oh, that's fine. It'll be good. You can do it if you want. Okay. So, I wanted to ask you something.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I absolutely hated it.
Alright, so this is the end of the entire channel.
No, I'm just kidding. Give it to me.
So, in your experience, do you think the combat changed enough to warrant, like, how they made this, like, a completely fresh sequel, right? Like, do you think it was different enough?
The added moves for, like, Peter, I like that they added the spider arms in there. The adding of the parry system was nice. I honestly, other than the parry system and the spider arms, I don't think they changed Miles' combat, really. From what I remember. Other than adding in overdrive and adding in the...
There's one thing I noticed that I wonder if you'll remember.
The 2 Venom powers that they added in.
There was more than 2.
I mean, the 2, like, when you got Martin Lee's powers and the 2 shifted.
I see.
I think there was enough there to appreciate the sequel. I would say that. I kind of view the combat upgrade as almost God of War to God of War Ragnarok kind of thing, where it's the same system, same structure, but they add a little bit here. and they do a little bit there, and then that's how they make the sequel.
That's fair.
So I would say there's enough to warrant it being a sequel.
Fair.
Do I wish there was more change? Maybe. I wouldn't be opposed to more change, or wouldn't have been opposed to more change. But I think there was enough there for it to be.
So one thing that, and maybe this is because I was playing the remaster like for a couple weeks before playing this one of the first game, but there's a lot of times in combat in the first game where I will put the weapon wheel on, and not to like pause buff or anything, but I just use it to like think about, okay, I have this group of enemies here, let me use a web bomb or something. So I use the weapon wheel almost as like a spider sense of him thinking in fast time, like subconsciously.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm just dumb, but I don't think it's a everyone problem. But there were times straight up when I meant to use, like I was looking at the screen and I was like, I have a sonic boom ready. And I'd be holding left bumper and pressing circle.
So you were doing your spider arms.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like, it'd be like empty or whatever.
Right.
Like I wouldn't have the ability charged over there because I'd already have used it.
Right.
And it just like confused me because like right away in the game, I think they made webs kind of weak. Like just the regular webs in general. Like in the first game, that's my majority. When I'd come into crimes, I would just web people up and throw them.
Yep.
Which is not a bad thing. I think it's more fun how they have it now. But that was something I noticed. Like maybe it's just because I didn't have all the upgrades like right away for like webbing and stuff. Like just the plain web shooters. But I think by the end of the game, they definitely got more useful the more they're upgraded. But right away, I thought they were a major downgrade comparatively, because you had like,
it's understandable. Well, there was less of them.
You had like 8 options.
Right.
In
now
the
you only
first
have
game.
the 4.
Now you have 4.
Right.
And they are on like a recharge system that's a little different, which is fine.
Right.
But I think it did make the combat quicker, but I just wasn't ready for it.
That's fair.
As like a change. But
I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not use a single gadget in the first game. I went in there and I just beat the meat off of I didn't literally beat the meat off, but I beat...
Spider-Man doesn't kill.
It's true. This is true. I just threw them off of buildings. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, I just went in and swung, just fists ablaze, just swinging, because I didn't want to use that wheel to decide what gadget to use. I just wanted to bum rush people.
Do you think you used gadgets more than in this game?
I did, because I didn't have to go to the wheel.
That's fair.
I just had to click the right bumper and pick whichever big gadget I wanted to use.
Yeah, that's true.
So I used it more in this game than I did in the previous game, because I thought it was quicker to do. I will say, too, I mean, the gadget system was, in my eyes, improved, because I actually used them this game. The traversal system, I loved it. I had read things where people didn't particularly like the web wings because they felt less like...
Then you're just like flying.
Right, yeah, you felt less like Spider-Man swinging through New York. I loved it because I could get from point A to point B and lickety-split.
Blickety-lit.
Blickety-lick. Anyways. And then... I actually did stealth missions in this game because I could use the zipline thing.
Yes,
the web line.
I think is the most underrated addition of them adding something that's, you can just put a web anywhere and you can attach webs to other webs that you already have made, your web zipline. Yep. So I agree, like that made stealth system, or this, I don't know, like in the first game it was like, where's like the nearest perch, and then like, there was so many options with like trip mines and stuff, and it was like, in that game I think the combat was maybe a little like easier to kill people or to harm. You don't kill them.
Right, to put them to sleep.
Put them to sleep for
permanently
a few hours. And so I didn't really care about stealth, but in this game I definitely think the stealth sections felt more worth it, and when I got caught I was actually like, shoot, like now there's like a wave of them coming at me.
Right.
And,
speaking of the stealth sections and getting caught, can we just acknowledge how like stupid enemy AI is though in the game? There were plenty of times where I dropped down next to someone, like I could spit on them, not that I would, and I'd pick up their buddy and I'd string them up and they wouldn't notice.
Really? I don't know. Mine... Did you play on Spectacular or like Amazing?
I think I played on Amazing. I played on the middle difficulty.
I think it was I do agree they're definitely not that smart.
Or they would walk by someone that I webbed that was like 2 feet above their eye line.
Yeah, that's like obvious though.
But I get
it.
They
have to.
Yeah, it's just funny to laugh about now.
Yeah, I think it is interesting that I noticed this, and I don't know if you noticed it, but when you're in a stealth section, and you're on a web line, if you put it like kind of far down, they will notice you. Like, they won't ever notice you on any like built-in foundation of the level that's like for stealth, really, like unless it's like like a perch next to someone that's on the same level,
right?
But if you're high enough above them, they won't. But as soon as you go on web lines that are kind of just out in the middle of like a big open area, they noticed me a couple times just walking on web lines because I was like they're you know, and if maybe this is a person, I was like right up here above them. I wasn't like eye level, but they still noticed me. So I thought that was cool that it still was like not too easy to where they would just like you could just walk anywhere above them and it was like free stealth.
Right, yeah.
But but I thought the stealth sections were improved just because of that. And I think that did you get to the Yuri mission where even the Black Cat mission in the main series the main series of missions where you're like dual takedowning?
Yeah,
that was
fun.
Super cool. There's even an ability later you get that you can do too, but like I don't have it yet. But
even like the Black Cat mission itself was really fun.
Yeah.
Flowing through portals, all of a sudden I'm in Antarctica.
Yeah. Part of me, it was like I was like living in the moment a bit, so I didn't want to like ruin the magic of it, but I wanted to like turn the camera and just like see everything.
Right.
But I
dive headfirst into the water, see what happens.
You'd probably just ragdoll after a little bit. There's probably no land box. It's probably just a big sky box. And if you go too far, fair. He just falls forever.
Well, now I need to try it. So.
Yeah, replay that mission. Let's see. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you about. Do you think this is what I felt right away? I think the initial Harry backstory stuff was I was thinking about my lows. That was a little bit of a slog for me, personally. Like going through the high school. And then the immediate next mission was going to the MF, which I get why. Like, it's to build up their rapport. Right. Harry wasn't in the first game at all, so, like, I get it.
Right.
But I definitely was, like... It was, like... You just come in this game at 1,000 miles per hour.
Right.
And then you hit a wall, like, for better or worse. And you're, like, learning about Harry. And, like, I get it. It's important and necessary to the story as a whole. But, like, I definitely felt... like, that would be... my MJ mission of the first game.
That makes sense. Yeah, I understand that.
But it was cool to see little young Peter.
Little young Pete.
He had like an e-boy haircut.
Little Pete.
I don't know, do you feel that way or?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was kind of like, but with how fast the story started, it felt like you hit a wall, but I feel like you needed to hit a wall there. You know what I mean?
I think...
But I agree that it was definitely...
Yeah.
It was a wall, but like you said, it was fun to see.
It was like a little breathing room after the intensity of the beginning.
Right.
But it was like almost too full stop. Like maybe there should have been like... I don't know, because maybe it was like we just got the game and it was like maybe I wanted to do a little more and I didn't really pay side stuff in at that point, so there was definitely more side content I could have done before jumping into that mission to probably cool myself down from how insane the Sandman mission was. But,
which was insane.
We know you're out there. But yeah, what did you... We can beep this out.
Yeah, How excited would you be for a Venom sequel if it came out after playing with... Could you imagine? Because that one Venom sequence was insane.
Yeah,
You're basically like... You bit Kraven's head off.
I know.
Could you imagine playing a whole game as Venom?
Yeah, and part of me would love it. And part of me... It would need to be like an M-rated game for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
you can't have a Venom game that's T.
But I don't know if I want to see an Insomniac Venom game without it being Harry, and it doesn't make sense for them to do that.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't know like how they would do it because all the stuff they make is like connected and
Harry's not Venom anymore.
Right. For now, I have thoughts on that. But
right.
I mean, we did see the symbiote die and stuff, so who's to say another symbiote won't just be like,
Right.
what's another, like the other one that's not Carnage, that's already
Riot.
taken, but like Riot or something.
Right.
Like,
Right.
But no, I think this is another hot take. I think if they could have somehow kept Venom an entire secret the entire time, never promoted it, I think if they would have never promoted the symbiote or Venom in any capacity, and I know we wouldn't have gotten our 19 inches of Venom.
Oh, I've never been so happy to receive 19 inches in my life.
I think that the game, like, imagine we just think it's a Kraven the Hunter's the big bad. Like in the first game, all the promotional material was Mr. Negative was the bad guy.
Right,
It was like,
right.
who kind of is that? Like, it's not as much of a mainstream character.
Right.
But everyone, like, kind of knows Kraven, so I think it's more of like okay, like Kraven's coming, he's trying to kill Spider-Man as like his final hunt, right?
Yep.
And imagine when the symbiote is see like Harry like do that first thing where he catches the roller coaster or whatever.
Yep.
And you'd be like, oh my god. Like it's in the game, right?
Yeah, that would have been sweet.
And they didn't have any trailers with Venom in it as a main focus or anything. Like, imagine if we just thought this game was about Kraven, right?
Right.
And I think, honestly, again, I'm kind of hot taking here. I think that they couldn't have done as many, like, the controllers and the covers and the statue. All that's kind of reliant on there being knowledge that exists.
Right.
Because otherwise, there's no...
We could have received 19 inches of Kraven.
Right, and I think that the accessories we got were way better than what would have been Kraven stuff.
Right.
I mean, a Kraven statue still would have been dope, but then knowing Venom's in the game, we would have been like, wow, we want like a Venom statue.
Yeah, where's my 19 inches of Venom at?
Yeah, right? So, I don't know, that's my kind of hot take, that I think the game would have felt... Like, that almost felt like that was supposed to be the big reveal, but then Sony was like, we need to sell hotcakes of this shit, so we need everyone to know that the symbiote is in this game.
Well, did you see? I think it's the highest selling game on day one from Sony.
Yeah, it was like 2.5 million copies in 24 hours or something. Like, that's insane. I don't know. That's my hot take.
I would agree, especially because the one trailer, if they just stopped it after Kraven snapped the dude's neck and was like, I know where my last hunt is.
Yeah.
And then they just stopped it there, I still think it would have been hype.
Oh, yeah.
Venom was in a different trailer.
Yes.
But
the symbiote
if they
suit
didn't do that trailer and they didn't do the symbiote suit, like if they didn't promote it and they just left like the marketing trailer as Miles and Peter beating up the people in New York with the Spider-Man arms, and then just cut out the last part of Venom, and then made Kraven's trailer where they just like where he snapped the dude's neck and was like, and again where he was like, I know where I must go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then
yeah.
And then they just ended it there. I still think it would have been hype. And then you maybe wouldn't have had the day one sales that you had with how you did it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a potential for a higher amount of post day one sales.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to be so surprised when they hear that Venom's in the game.
Yeah.
And the symbiote suit's in the game. And like, I feel like longevity wise, it would have had more sales.
I think one thing they could have done is maybe show that Venom's in the game, right? But don't show that Peter gets the suit.
Right.
Because then they can still do all their promotional stuff they did, where they showed the Venom statue and they have the controllers, because it makes sense. Like, It might have hinted, people might have thought, like, yeah, well, maybe Peter will get it, right? Because then if you're playing the whole game and you have no idea that Peter gets the symbiote, the moment where he's dying would be really impactful, because like you wouldn't even expect him to get the suit. At that point, I'm like, yeah, he's probably going to
get the suit somehow, right?
You're almost thinking the whole game, like, hey, when does Peter get the suit? And what makes sense at what time for him to get the suit? And then it's like, oh yeah, he's like got stabbed by Kraven. It's probably gonna happen now. Yeah. And then it might even build up to think like he would never get it because Harry has it. He's gonna be Venom, right? You'd never even think it's gonna leave him, and then they could still do all their sales of Venom and stuff. That's maybe how I would have done it, because they already showed a bunch of the like spider arm stuff. Like, we already knew that was like the next combat thing before the suit.
Right.
So,
Well, I also think it would have been crazy if they didn't lay it on so thick that Harry was gonna be Venom. If we just like got blue-balled and then just all of a sudden, boom, Harry's Venom.
yeah, I knew it the whole time. I told you I called it.
You did call it. But like you go back to the post-credit scene of the first game where he's in the chamber with the symbiote.
It seemed heavy-handed.
It seemed like they were really like, Harry's Venom, but we're not gonna show him as Venom in the trailer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I think it would have been interesting if they hadn't even alluded, like if they had a different post-credit scene, and then like in the flashback sequence with them, it showed like Harry getting. It showed that post-credit scene in the flashback sequence when they go through the school. Like, Harry goes through, like, a trauma, and then he's, like, reminded of a time in the chamber. And then all you know from the first game is that Harry's sick. We think he's in Europe. Or, like, if they alluded to, like, he's sick, and Norman's trying to get help for him, but we don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, and maybe they never show the symbiote part. They just know he's sick.
Right. And then in the flashback sequence...
Yeah. No, I agree.
That would have been interesting. That might be a little bit of my...
take,
but
there's like a little bit of it. I almost like, I don't want something to overstay its welcome and just have Venom keep evading and like it just go for like 2 more hours longer than it needed to. Like, obviously I always want more, but I understand and can appreciate a shorter story that is not overstaying its welcome. But yeah.
Speaking of stories, if you had to roll this story, where do you think it's going to go in the Spider-Man 3 that's inevitably going to come out? I want to see Carnage. I want to see Green Goblin straight up after that post-credit scene where he was like, get the G serum out.
It's going to happen.
And then he goes to Otto, and Otto's what are you writing, Otto? And he's like, my final chapter. And then just if they have a re-team up where it's like Green Goblin and
you think he's gonna team up with Otto?
I don't. I think it would be interesting if they spun it in a way that made sense.
The way that I think it makes sense is if Otto like is tricking Norman, and using Norman's like
rage,
complete like
rage.
No, not rage. I mean, he will be raged.
Oh,
but
I mean rage.
No, his
rage.
His rage. I think you're melting my brain. His
rage.
His desperation. I'm trying to say he's desperate. You're melting my brain. He's desperate, so maybe Otto will take advantage of that and he'll finally get what he wants. Because he knows Otto's desperate and raged. But I think it's obvious that Carnage will have something to do with it. Or maybe, I don't remember. Did they announce a DLC like before the first game launched? Or did they do that really like after?
I don't remember. But to see Carnage in the DLC might be sweet.
Yeah, it would make sense.
I wouldn't even be mad if they make Carnage DLC.
When did Spider-Man PS4 come out? I just looked up when did Spider-Man PS4. September 7th, 2018. Man, DLC get announced.
Carnage DLC would be pretty sweet.
That would be dope.
I would be okay with that.
So, it looks like the first murmurs of the DLC
came out in October of that year.
No, so it says Marvel Spider-Man is coming to PS4 on September 7th, and not long after, a trio of add-on episodes will be released for the game.
So it sounds like they announced it with the game or before the game.
It was before the game, because this blog was in August of 2018. So it was like a week before the first game came out. It was like very, very much right before. Right. They announced it, but they didn't like show anything.
Right.
And it came out in October, November, and December. So there he is.
It'd be pretty sweet.
It would be sweet, but I think a Carnage-focused DLC, maybe some more Yuri missions, and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah. The first game had 3 DLCs. I would be okay if they made one longer DLC for this. Like, if they just made a Carnage DLC, and instead of making 3-hour DLCs, they made, like, 1 9-hour or 2, like, 4.5-hour DLCs. Because all 3 DLCs, they tied into each other in the first game, but they all were different DLCs. I wouldn't be against it if they wanted to make 1 or 2 longer ones and keep those tied in together.
I agree. I think the reason they did it originally is Insomniac said in several interviews they were like already rushed with the auto fight and stuff. Right. Like the game was very rushed towards the end just because they needed to get it done. But I think that the reason why the DLCs were even spaced was that they literally just probably weren't done. Like
right.
DLC 3 was probably like still like in a beta version by the time the first one came out, and they had like 2 months to finish it. But no, I agree. In a perfect world, I would love if they released just a whole. I'd even just say 1 3-hour episode of just main story, consistent. Like I'm saying, like 3 hours of cutscene.
Right.
Like that's really tough to do. Like,
right. And keep it to the scale that they made it with the missions in the main story.
Yeah, and
it'd be hard.
Obviously, like the engine's now built for this. I mean, we're already 5 years into the PS5's life cycle, and most life cycles of consoles are like 8 years. So, I mean, technically we're already getting a PS5 Slim, but it's no better. It's just the same.
Just slimmer.
Thicker. I already have an idea that we're going to be 30 when this game comes out. I don't know why I said it like that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
30 when this game comes out, but the next one... Not to age us. I'm 29, so...
I'm 12.
Yeah, so with all that said, we could talk forever, but I want to hear your honest... If you when you see like a game review and it's like a little 3-sentence splurge with like a score out of 10, what would be yours?
Oh, I would say...
If you had to summarize all your thoughts about the game, and we haven't completed all the side content. He knows more about the side content than I do because he soiled himself on all of it.
I soiled myself.
But as far as like your experience with the game, what would be your like 3 to 4 sentence summary and a score?
I would say Spider-Man 2 builds on foundations that were laid in Spider-Man 1. It tells a somewhat expected story very eloquently, very, very detailed, and it knocks it out of the park. Subtle improvements to combat serve to be welcome additions to the gameplay loop as a whole. Minor technical issues and the slightly safe story, I would say, culminate to maybe bring it down from a 10 for me, but all in all, I'd feel a solid 8.5 on it.
Fair.
8.5, maybe a 9 if you're feeling me. Like if I just watched Sam Raimi's series, you'd probably get a 9 out of me. You know what I mean? So I would say 8.5 to a 9 somewhere in there.
Fair. When you said the bug thing again, I remembered when I was playing that. When the first symbiote transformation happened, Peter was laying there, and just the whites of the eyes came up, and it was like floating off his face, and his hair like shrunk into his head, and he was bald for like 4 frames, and then it like the camera panned right over his face, and then it was like doing the transformation. It was so jarring. That was like the only cutscene bug I had, and it really was disappointing that's when it happened, but like it's fine. So for me,
true.
I think this game felt very different than the first two, for better or worse. People felt heavier, and in a good way. Maybe it's because I played it on Spectacular, but people felt thicker. Like I had to punch them like 9 times to kill one, just like grunts.
Makes sense.
And then by the end of the game, just the thugs and the crimes were like cake. Like you just punch them 3 hits because you're so upgraded.
Right. I will say though, do you remember when you told me that when you were in like the Venom fight, you didn't upgrade your damage at all? the tech suit upgrades, you did none of them. So
no, I didn't do none of them. I only had like 2 to 3 done per category. So I only had like 20% upgraded damage. But it's because I did none of the side content.
Well, that's probably why they were
And then every time there was a new suit, I bought new suits. All my tech parts were gone.
Sorry, continue.
But besides that, I think the story as a whole was... I think I was able to stay more engaged because I didn't really know who Mr. Negative was as a whole.
Right.
Like, as a character, really, at all. Like, in any other media, because I'm not super into comics or anything. And just the fact that, like, he was the main villain of the first game, and I don't want to compare just game to game, but
right.
The main villain of the first game would be, like, you know, like, Mr. Negative, and then I just wasn't as attached to him early on. Whereas with, like, this game, it's Sandman. We all know Sandman.
Right.
Huge, just crazy. He's dusting the entire east side of New York and in those boroughs across the bridge. And then we're immediately, like, doing some little stuff that's dropping hints at, like, other stuff. And then almost the next big main cutscene after we see Harry is that Kraven's coming to New York.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, this is the bad guy. This is established. We know Venom or whatever. But so I think for that, it kept me more engaged consistently. I won't say, like, by the end of the first game with the Sinister Six, I was, like, hooked and glued. Right. But as a consistency, I would probably side with the light 9 side. Maybe, like, light 9.
See, we're about the same.
Yeah, and I think the only thing... The side content seems much better.
Very much better, yes.
Very much better. It's the abilities, the ability to choose some different abilities on the left wheel, like between Venom symbiote stuff and like your legs and stuff is cool. And the fact that they found a way to expand Miles was very awesome. And even though I'm kind of bummed about the gadgets, I understand they kind of slogged combat. They were more about just webbing things up, whereas these ones were to put you into air combos or stuff like that, or group people up so you can do a big finishing like symbiote ability or something. So solid 9.
That's fair. Yeah. See, we're about the same. I mean, I was probably just as high as you. I guess I'd probably be more in that 8.5 range, but I could like.
Probably like a strong 8.
Strong 8.
Yeah.
Very strong 8.
Yeah. I'm like light 9. And I think that...
But, again, I think if I play it again, I might go through with that 9. Like, if you call it a 9, I'm not going to call you crazy. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's perfect for several reasons. Just, like, 10... The only, like, recent 10 game in my brain has been, like... Honestly, like, Ragnarok was like...
Yeah, right. I might be a little biased because that's my favorite game series, but 10,
I would still give that game a 10, even though there's a couple issues with that game I had, but, like, overall, like, I found... I'm sure you... Because did you 100% that game as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I went through all the YouTube guides to find the little treasures. I'm getting too off topic, but
it's all right,
I'm just saying, other 10s, there was cool moments here and there in this game that were, like, very cool.
Yeah.
But there were several in other games that, like, if I were to push it to a 10, I would have had to be more wowed more consistently. But I wouldn't even give the first game a 10. That one would be maybe
I don't think I would either.
Strong 8 for me. Miles, I like his abilities more in the Miles Morales story.
I agree. I thought Miles' combat's more fun, too, because he's just, like... It's just more fun to hit people with. Exactly. He seems like he's just so, like, nimble and, like...
Yeah. Yep, I agree. Well, do you agree? Did you love our opinions? Did you hate our opinions? Let us know in the comments. Don't subscribe if you don't want to, but do it because it's free.